Well, that scorecard at the end from the Swiss judge was probably the most entertaining moment of the entire 12 rounds of that fight. But for those who watched it live, you'll know that there was a split decision win with Kubrat Pulev winning on points. One of the judges scored it 118-110 Pulev. One of them scored it 116-112 Pulev. One of them scored it 115-113 in favour of Chisora, which was an inexplicable result from my perspective. I personally had it 117-111 in Pulev's favour, scoring it 9 rounds to 3. I could accept 8 rounds to 4. I could also accept 10 rounds to 2. There was some closer, scrappy rounds where both guys did very little. So as a result, I could see it going either way. But I'd struggle to give Chisora more than 4 rounds of this fight, and I think Pulev definitely deserved to win based on, what was on evidence in the ring. For me, Kubrat Pulev in this fight fought very much in the mould of a Vladimir Klitschko. Everything worked with the jab. He was very upright, very, very composed with his boxing, and he put punches together from the outside at range very well. His straight punches, his jab cross was very effective, his straight uppercut was very effective, and his jab was the consistent best punch of the fight. Pulev's jab was a real weapon, and credit goes to him for that. Pulev's lack of versatility, which I highlighted in my post-fight video, my pre-fight video, was very evident. He had no ability to punch to the body. He had no inside game whatsoever, and resorted to quite crudely holding Dereck Chisora when Chisora was trying to get on the inside. Chisora, for what it's worth, I thought, put in a poor tactical fight. Too much of the fight was spent by Chisora at Kubrat Pulev's ideal range. I thought in the early rounds, Dereck Chisora was actually getting into a jabbing contest with Kubrat Pulev, which was only ever going to end one way. Chisora kept throwing this relatively weak, low jab to the body, and it was good to see him trying to bank bodywork early on. It was probably not the worst tactic. But at the same time, you're thinking that a battle of the jabs is surely not the way for Dereck Chisora to win this fight. So for me, Chisora was starting well, in some of the early rounds. He showed some promise. But what was disappointing was his lack of work on the inside. And he really allowed himself to be held by Kubrat Pulev for too long in this fight, and simply resort to wide swings to Pulev's body, once he was held, so he could generate very little, if any, power whatsoever. Realistically, it was a good performance from Kubrat Pulev. He boxed well from the outside, but for me, and I hate to say it to be critical, but for me, Kubrat Pulev is a poor man's Vladimir Klitschko. He doesn't have the power of Klitschko, he doesn't have the size of Klitschko, but he does, he fights in that style, very much jab and grab, straight 1-2, not much else to his game other than working off the jab and closing down opponents on the outside, on the inside by holding them. He's got that sort of perfected amateur style. He does the basics very well. He doesn't have gaping holes in his game, and as a result, I do think it's fair to say that he's definitely a top 10 heavyweight, and he's got the game, he's got the ability to beat a number of the heavyweights out there. As for Dereck Chisora, it's yet another occasion where he's come up slightly short at the top level. In fact, he's come up pretty short at the top level on this occasion. For me, there's a lack of tactical awareness there, and I just felt he could have done a lot more. Essentially, I thought he was quite slow in terms of bridging the distance. There wasn't much hand speed there wasn't much tactical foot speed, and he just allowed Pulev to fight Pulev's fight too much. He backed off Pulev too much. He gave him too much room to breathe, and simply allowed himself. The most disappointing element of this fight for me was the holding. It was disappointing that the ref allowed Pulev to hold so much, but it was also very disappointing that Chisora allowed Pulev to hold so much. If he'd have been a bit quicker on his feet, and thrown a double jab to Pulev's chest to back him up, and you'd have liked to have seen him throw combinations of hooks where, Instead, he was doing that thing he does of going for more wild swings and, you know, looking for a sort of Hail Mary knockout punch. You know, but there we are. There we are. It's just another occasion where Chisora's come up slightly short, and it is frustrating because, in my perspective, Kubrat Pulev is a beatable fighter, but Chisora, you know, I hate to say it, he probably is just a bit shy of this sort of level. Pulev, whilst he's not the most versatile, he doesn't have the most power, he's classy from the outside, he's got that good amateur technical background, and, you know, I guess fundamentally he's all round decent, and he's had too much for Chisora tonight. Let's see where both guys go from here. Be interesting to see. You'd have to say Chisora's maybe done at world level, or even Pulev level, but perhaps there's some decent domestic classes for him to be involved with. As for Kubrat Pulev, you know, he's one of the better fighters in the heavyweight division. I think he loses to the top 5 or 6, you know. I don't give him too much to hope of beating a Fury or a Vladimir Klitschko or a Povetkin or a Joshua, one of those guys. I just think he's too one-dimensional. But if you drop down one layer from that, he's a real test because he does the basics very well. Got a good jab, and yeah, he's just, you know, he's fundamentally well-rounded, but just not well-rounded. He's fundamentally sound, you know, defensively sound, decent speed, decent pedigree, but just not the most versatile. Anyway, got to go because I want to watch the collar fight. But let me know your thoughts. How did you score the fight? As I say, I did 9 rounds to 3. What do you make of that judge who gave it to Chisora? Did anyone out there give it to Chisora? Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this, do hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe.